Hey, so I'm wearing sunglasses today because I just wasn't really feeling myself today. But you know what? It's September and it's the Great Lock In. Have you guys heard of that, by the way? The Great Lock In? I just came across my For You page on TikTok a couple days before the start of September. It was saying the Great Lock In starts September 1st to December, and it's 5 months to get your life together, to really lock in and make sure that you can elevate your life. You got 5 months to change your life, is pretty much the story there. I know that September itself is going to be a really hard month for me because of my school, my work, and all the things I have on my plate, but I feel like I've been locked in or been trying to be locked in, but knowing that there is this great lock in gives me some more stamina. I can't say stamina anymore because I was with my friend. We were listening to music and the song The Greatest by Sia came on. And you know in that song she's saying like I'm running out of breath, but I got stamina. And she just keeps repeating that. And then my friend goes, "Me when I have stamina." And for some reason I just lost it. Like that was the funniest thing ever to me. So now whenever I say stamina, I think of that and I just start dying again. Where was I going with this? The Great Lock In. So we're in the Great Lock In right now. Y'all better be locked in because I'm locked in. So you got to be locked in with me, okay? We're in this together. The Great Lock In. We got 5 months, people. Let's see how it goes. We could at least try, even though we've probably been trying, but you know what? Let's not give up. Let's, you know? So. And now that it is the fall, I'm kind of nervous because, September, October, November is when dramatic events in your life usually play out. I don't know why it works that way, but it does. So we're entering the season where everything changes, where the canon events happen. But the fall always makes me romanticize hard feelings or uncomfortable feelings like sadness, sorrow, if you will. I never want this to seem like I'm being ingenuine, by the way, when I romanticize things, because I'm still experiencing the sadness. I'm just figuring out a way to get through it without crashing out every day, even though I still crash out every day. Romanticizing your life doesn't mean you're happy. You can look healed and still be hurting. Healing isn't linear, so you can't beat yourself up for not feeling healed despite doing the work. Sometimes there's this pressure to always be healing. Sometimes self growth can feel like a competition, even. You're not broken just because you're not journaling every day or doing all those things that they say you're supposed to do to feel better or to elevate your life. I saw this TikTok that I showed my friend, and it was someone preaching about healing and wellness, and they were like, does this person think healing is their whole personality? Or do they think healing's a personality trait? And I was like, oh, that's not in the sense that. But I see where they were coming from. I think we're all on our own journeys, and one person's healing isn't going to look the same as another person's healing. You can't really compare yourself to others. I definitely still compare myself to others, but I think specifically when it comes to healing, you definitely can't compare yourself to others because everybody grieves differently, everybody heals differently. That is truly your own journey, and you can't think about what it looks like to other people. For me, sometimes feel like a lot of strife or things that I have to heal from in my life wouldn't have happened if I did something a certain way and then I blame myself, to which my response is to be more of a people pleaser, which already is not a great thing. But I always wanted to be rebranded as low maintenance. I never wanted to burden everybody. So I tried to come across as easygoing because I was afraid to be a burden. But I feel like that being chill is kind of like a response to things that were out of my control. I don't know if I'm making much sense, but let me explain what I mean with an example. So I recently hung out with my friend, and it was the first time we hung out in a while. We had a picnic for my birthday, and I was so excited. I wanted to do something healing because things in my life have been so chaotic lately, and I feel like going out in nature, just relaxing, eating some food is so calming and healing, and my nervous system is like screaming for some calmness. So yeah, I was yapping and having a good time or whatever. We was cracking jokes and giggling and hee-hee and ha-haing. But when I left and that good feeling wore off, I had this wave of like self-hatred come on, and I felt I literally had to reach out to that friend and apologize for existing. I sent follow-up texts like, oh, sorry if I kept interrupting, sorry if I spoke too much about myself. Also, when we talked about this, I meant to say it like this, blah, blah, blah. It felt like everything I tried to say just came out wrong. And it's funny because I always feel so misunderstood, but it's like, how can you expect somebody to understand you if you can't even articulate yourself correctly or portray your thoughts in the way that you mean to? I actually spoke deeply about this with my friend a couple days ago after the hangout, and they said they get the same way sometimes. It's such a weird feeling because it absolutely makes no sense. I don't even remember when this feeling started. It's definitely gotten worse over the past 2 to 3 years, I'd say. It comes with overthinking everything, replaying the entire day out to analyze where I made mistakes or when I said something I shouldn't have. I have to distract myself sometimes, or else it makes me feel this overwhelming dread that makes me spiral. Obviously, there are times where I can't avoid that, which is why I wanted to talk about that today. I feel like this is something a lot of people deal with, but it's not something you can just casually bring up, like, oh, you feel the dread too. Oh, the dread, you know? It's like we're in this nonstop feedback loop of judgment. Like, did I say the right thing? Do I look okay? Am I doing enough? Sometimes I wonder if people in earlier generations had the same level of self dislike, or if it's been amplified now because we're always seeing ourselves from the outside. Like when you scroll through Instagram for even like 10 minutes and you suddenly feel like you don't measure up even if you were fine 5 minutes ago. I relate to this because every time I open Instagram now, and I swear I'm about to mass unfollow everybody I went to high school with, all I see is people getting engaged or having a baby. And I'm here just like, I hope I pass my sign language class this semester. Like, it's, it's, that's it. We all have that critical voice in our head too. And it could be protective sometimes. A lot of times it's there to help us, like try to keep us from messing up. But most of the time it's just mean. The problem is we start to believe it's the truth. I'm lazy, I'm awkward, I'm not attractive, I don't deserve that. Where does that voice even come from? Family, school, culture, trauma? Probably a mix of all of it. And because it's your own voice, it feels believable. But just because your brain says it doesn't mean it's reality. So, a time when my self talk made me spiral, and then I later realized that nobody else saw me that way, was that day when I had to, keep going to my friend after the hangout and being like, oh my gosh, I was so annoying. Like, I was insufferable. When I get excited, I sound like a chicken. And my friend was like, you literally don't. Like, I had fun. Okay, my battery died and I'm not sure where I left off, but. And also, there's this performance trap where we're taught from so young that we need to be somebody, get good grades, have achievements, look a certain way. Liking yourself is often tied to how well you perform. But what happens when you're not performing? On the days that you do nothing, or when you fail? Suddenly it feels like you're not worthy. And this is why so many people feel empty when they're successful. They never learned how to like themselves, separate from achievement. Who are you if you didn't have the accomplishments that you have? Do you like yourself beneath that? That's very important. And it's actually so hard. It's not that humans are naturally self-hating. It's more that the systems around us, like capitalism, beauty standards, social media metrics, even family expectations, are set up to make us feel like we're always lacking something. In a way, it's almost like we're trained to not like ourselves because there's an entire economy that benefits when we don't. And even though it's hard, there are little ways to make peace with yourself, like journaling to catch that inner critic before it takes over, or just trying to think yourself out of that toxic loop when your mind is just being mean to you. Spending alone time and realizing that you don't hate your own company, that is very important. Hating your own company is probably one of the worst things that you can do when it comes to figuring out yourself and trying to not hate yourself. But also, surrounding yourself with people who remind you of your worth instead of draining it is also really important. Sometimes you're talking and people will give a look or say something in a way that doesn't really sit right with you. It makes you feel that maybe they don't have your best interest. And honestly, forgiving yourself for being human, for being maybe messy, inconsistent, emotional, imperfect, I always have to forgive myself for being inconsistent. I am the most inconsistent person in the world. The goal isn't to love yourself all the time either. It's to like yourself enough that you don't constantly live in a battle with your own reflection. Especially if you've lived most of your life hating yourself, you're not just gonna, journal for an hour and then all of a sudden you love yourself. You don't turn around, meet somebody and love with them right away. It takes time, especially if you have hated yourself for so long. Because that is healing, and healing isn't linear. If you're listening to this and you feel like you're in that place when it's really hard to like yourself, I just want to say you're not alone. And so many of us are walking around pretending like we've got it all together when inside we're questioning everything. Maybe we're not supposed to solve self love once and for all. Maybe it's something you return to again and again, like watering a plant. Some days it thrives and some days it looks a little rough, but you just keep tending to it and helping it grow. Your self love can grow over time. And I don't think self love is an on and off switch. Maybe it's just learning to stop being so cruel to yourself bit by bit. So I'm not saying all this to offer a solution. I'm just trying to articulate a feeling people often don't have the words for. But I feel like this is really important to talk about, especially today, on a day when I'm definitely not feeling myself. It took me so long to set up for this podcast today. You could see the curtain behind me if unless you're listening to the audio version because of the glare. I've tried to fix that after I set everything up. There was still a glare coming in from the other side, and I had to move everything and schlepp everything out of the way to fix this glare. After all that, I had to re-record the podcast at least twice because I felt like, as I said before, sometimes I feel like I just don't say things the way that I want to or mean to. Even now, I feel like I'm not saying things the way that I want to. It's a really weird feeling. And after I hung out with my friend that day at the picnic and we had that deep conversation about, not really liking ourselves and feeling misunderstood, everything we say feels misunderstood, I still felt that if I were to hang out with them again, I would be burdening them. It's such a weird self-hatred and trying to like yourself. It's such a weird thing and it's so complicated. I truly don't know how this is all supposed to work, but you know what? The great lock-in, y'all. Maybe we can like ourselves a little more during this great lock-in. Who knows? I also, today is kind of not going the way I want it to go because I got called into work, which this is one of my days off, or supposed to be one of my days off, and I am supposed to be dedicating this entire day to my university work, which now I have to do all Thursday, and I have like 6 assignments due Thursday, and I don't know how to not crash out when I'm so burnt out every day, and I don't really have a support system at all. I was talking about this to my coworkers, how I feel like for me specifically, I look around me and everybody is drinking alcohol and smoking weed to kind of de-stress and cope. Not even just alcohol and weed, it's also nicotine and the vaping, which I know is nicotine, but whenever someone goes on their break, they'll go to their car and they'll vape or they'll hit the pen or whatever they do, and they come back seeming more calm, and I can't do that because I have a heart issue, so I also can't go home and drink alcohol to relax like other people can or to take the edge off. I don't have anything to take the edge off. That's what I'm trying to say. So I don't really know how to process my stress or cope with all the stress and burnout that I have because I can't do all the things that other people do to help. So I also feel like people don't really understand me or can't understand me because they don't have a heart issue that prevents them from doing things that help them de-stress. So I want to try getting into Pilates again. But the only thing that sucks is that everything is so expensive. So I did Pilates last year and I liked it, but it was like $100 a month. So I could do wall Pilates in my house, right? But I'll be honest, I'm going all day, It's like if I enter my bedroom, I'm going to lay down in my bed. I'm not going to pull out my yoga mat and start doing wall Pilates, you know what I mean? If I do have that time, I feel like I should relax. But people say, oh, exercise helps. You got to exercise. People say if you can't do all those things, you should be exercising. You should be doing yoga, something. But I don't know. It doesn't hurt to try during this great lock-in, I guess. But I can't imagine how much that would help. I'm going to try, but I don't know. As far as coping with stress, I feel like that's kind of why I shop a lot because it's one of the few things I can do that might make me feel better, even if it's for a little bit. I used to spend so much money and I'm still trying to get better at spending money. My relationship with money is so thrown off ever since childhood. I've just watched money issues since I was a kid, so it's really hard for me to have a healthy relationship with money. And I saw on my Apple My Apple credit card statement last month was so rough. It was so rough, guys. But you know what? You know what I'm about to say. You know what I'm about to talk about. The great lock-in. Yep. So that's where I'm at right now. I hope you have a good week because I'll see you again next week. So yeah, good luck.